This telecast is available on ESPN2 HD, presented by Hitachi. That's the skyline of Indianapolis, Indiana, the motorsports capital of the world. If you go just a few miles to the west of Indy, you'll find O'Reilly Raceway Park, and that's where we're located for the Lucas Oil Sportsman Drag Racing Series. ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports, presents exclusive coverage of the NHRA Lucas Oil Sportsman Drag Racing Series. Today we come to you from O'Reilly Raceway Park in Indianapolis, Indiana for the 52nd running of the Mac Tools U.S. Nationals. It's called the Big Go. It is the biggest event on the calendar. In fact, 908 total entries in both pro and sportsman categories turned out for the 52nd running of this annual event. Today, we're going to focus on about 32 of them. Hello again, everybody. I'm Marty Reed. Glad to be back with you alongside Bob Fry. We have Top Alcohol Dragster, Top Alcohol Funny Car that we're going to focus on today. And obviously here at the Big Go, we sometimes talk about upsets, and that's what happened in the first round of Dragster. Yeah, we go back and harken to the year that John Haley came in here and won. A very unheralded driver years ago. Eldon P. Slick beat a guy by the name of Gary Selsey, who later did moderately well for himself. Yesterday, not only were there some upsets, Morgan Lucas was bounced in the opening round. Ashley Force stunned with an upset on a hole shot by a guy we'll talk to in just a little bit. And the other thing about this, Marty, is there are drivers here that have never been at this race before, which is really intriguing. Guys that have never won a round at a national event before, and to come out here and qualify for the fields and to win their first round here at the Big Go, for them it's just stunning. All right, let's take a look at the Dragster ladder. Take us through the matchups for round number 2, Bob. Well, Dwayne Shields ran the quickest run on the new percentage for nitromethane cars during the year, but Randy Myers going to be an awful tough draw. That Noah Kondo, he's the guy that took out Ashley Force. Only 4 blown cars qualified for the field. 2 of them, Thacker and Kondo, advanced. They meet here in the second round. Let's Over on the flip side of the ladder, you're going to take a look at Bill Reichert. Right now, the hottest guy, and the championship might be his to win or lose right now. He's got Dino Dave Heitzman, won his first round at a national event yesterday. And Garrett Bateman all the way in from the West Coast with the Big O car. And Lee Calloway now driving that car that is owned and tuned by Tom Conway. And boy, they just had a kick and a wild ride. He just survived, and that's the word I used for Lee yesterday. And Lee took out Morgan Lucas. Now let's shift gears over to the funny car, because there it's points implications. Yeah, it really is interesting, because the top 3 guys in the points, Frank Manzo, Bob Newberry, Brian Houck, were all here in competition. Interesting, because Brian only had 4 national events claimed. He's got a really great opportunity here. He advanced out of the first round. Bob Newberry had 1 race in hand against Frank Manzo. He had run 1 less national event, but Bob Newberry was upset in the opening round. That's going to be big. That evens the playing field. And then you got Frank Manzo and Jay Payne, who basically since the turn of the century, every performance mark here at this racetrack has belonged to them. Number 1 low ET top speed. It's either Payne or Frank Manzo. And you got to think right now that those guys that have both gone 5:55 on this track really are the guys to beat. All right, let's take a look at the ladders, and we'll show you the matchups for second round of action in Top Alcohol Funny Car. Interesting, we talk about the 2 really bad dudes, Payne and Manzo. Look at that, they're on the same side of the ladder. There's another kid, Brian Houck. Do not count out Mick Snyder. He ran side by side with Frank twice in qualifying, beat him 1 of those times. Take a look at the other side of the ladder. It's going to be the Tasca team coming in. Clint Thompson, all the way in from Oregon, had never set foot at this racetrack until earlier this week, and then he upset Bob Newberry in the opening round. And Harker and Gasparelli, it's going to be very interesting. Harker coming off a very strong performance at the Lucas Oil Division race just last week, so he's looking to go back-to-back. Well, you mentioned Noah Kondo. That's where we find Dave Reef.
Only the best help in the business for 37-year-old Noah Kondo, a guy who owns an auto repair shop in Monticello, Indiana, actually lives right above his own shop, and that's one of the ways he's getting to be a Top Alcohol Dragster driver. Noah, how did you get involved?
I had my dad's cousin that had an alcohol funny car when I was little, so after I seen that, that's something I wanted to do.
Why jump right into a dragster, right into a 270-mile-an-hour car?
I didn't figure I could afford to do the little ones and then keep building. I just had to collect parts. It took me 5 years to get what I got here, and I guess that's it.
And now you've been working on that tune-up over the last 3 years. It's been an interesting weekend for you already. Had to throw a qualifying run out. How was this team able to come back and get requalified to get in the position you're at now?
Well, we were 10 pounds underweight, so we had to put a weight bar on it, put 10 pounds on it, and we actually went out there and ran a little faster, ran a 36.
So that's awful, something to be awful proud of. Now you've been working on your lights, and it was the light that got you around Ashley Force. Are you surprised to be able to beat such a well-funded team as the Darien Meadows team in Ashley?
Yeah, it's kind of tough to do the light when you really haven't done it. It's hard to get rolled in, not too far, and turn the thing red. I've done that a few times this year and lost some rounds.
Marty Thacker's up next. Can you keep the train rolling here and go some more rounds?
I hope so. In qualifying, he got like 0.23s, 0.24 lights, so he'll be tough.
Just make sure you go green. Noah Kondo, and fresh new face on the Lucas Oil Sportsman scene.
So as we come back down to the starting line, we get ready for second round action here in Top Alcohol Funny Car. And our first pair is going to be a pretty doggone good matchup. Frank Manzo will be in the left lane, Mick Snyder over in the right.
I think this is about as good a quality field as we've had in the 8 cars in the second round of this event for quite some time, Marty. You are going to see some very huge races, some races that may not have points implications. That'll be good side-by-side battles like match races. And then there's this one with Mick Snyder going off with his Torco team against dude in the block, Frank Manzo and his Lucas Oil team machine. I mean, he just loves coming here and running at this race. I mean, there's no better driver in this class right now, and only Pat Austin has better numbers historically across the board. And Pat used to come out and run all the races and just go out there and rip their throats out. But nice matchup here. The great veteran Frank Manzo at 53 years old. Mick Snyder getting set to make the run with that Lenko Drive, Torco-sponsored machine. And watch these guys go at it side by side in time trials. And Mick never gave a beat. I mean, it's some very interesting matchups. This racetrack is very solid, which is interesting. The one rap that people have said against the Lenko Drive cars like Mick has is they may not be able to handle the big horsepower tracks. We're about to find out because the drivers told me right here they haven't found anybody yet that's been able to overpower this starting line.
Yeah, we've got some overcast conditions. Weather has been ideal throughout the race weekend.
And it's great right now for these guys. I talked with several of the drivers in the staging lanes right before I came down here, and they say they prefer the left lane. It apparently has a little bigger groove for these cars. I mean, you look at the temperatures there. I mean, 96 degrees, and the track temperature about as cool as we've seen on race day for a while. But they also said, even though the left lane will be the lane of preference, they said, if you lose, don't use the fact that you're in the right lane as an excuse, because it really is not.
We get ready now for Manzo in the left lane, Mick Snyder over in the right lane.
Frank's just a bad man.
This is all ace. An 012 light, a 5:53 elapsed time at 261.
Unbelievable. The best run of the weekend. I told you the track right now is just absolutely great. He really gets amped up for the big races. He qualified in the number 2 spot and comes here, and that is just about a picture-perfect run. And we're going to find out because some other big horsepower cars are coming up. He goes 5:53.2, 261.37. That is a booming big speed. Puts him right in the middle of the top 10 speed runs of all time. And of course, he's already on that list a bunch of times.
The car skated just a little bit here at the beginning of the run, but he quickly gathered in and then just drove it on right there. He's got it back into the groove, and then it's straight down the pike.
They're probably the 2 best drivers in this class that can handle that. Right there is Frank Manzo. We're going to see the other one, Jay Payne, coming up in just a bit. The term I used is they just muscle it back into it. It just comes with years of experience. They know what the car is going to do, and they know how to handle it.
Before we talk more about the pair coming up on the line, Clint Thompson and Bob Tasker III, let's go to the debrief.
Talk with Ace Manzo here. How good a run do you think that was?
Well, the driver, he wasn't good.
Only an 012 light. Need to work on that.
Left before the tree came on. I was very lucky. The good Lord was driving. Well, I'm hoping it ran 57, 259.
How about 53, 261?
You know what? That's the good Lord today. Lucas Super Winch, Hoosier, how about them tires? Jegs, and all the other people make it possible. And my crew, I want to thank you.
It's also a good team getting up for the biggest drag race of the year.
Yeah, hey, it's no putty tab. He said he called his car that earlier. This is a great matchup. Hey, we got 2 dealerships here. We got the big Tasca Ford dealership. Bill Lawton came here and ran at this race back in the 1960s. But the Tasca name has never had a better chance of going to the winner's circle than they have with this kid. This is running very well. Ralph Poirier, the crew chief, with help from Randy Anderson. They're going to take on the Chevy dealership from out on the West Coast. Clint Thompson from Oregon. He also got Hondas and Subarus over there. And he was so excited, Clint. He said, I took out the defending national champion in that first round. I said, now you get Bob Tasker. Guys coming here for the first time. Their wife, Danette, with a race car, had never set foot on this property until he came here and didn't qualify until the last round, Marty. He said, we're just nervous wrecks and just managed to get into the field.
almost dead even off the starting line, but from that point on, it was Tasca, 5.61 seconds at 257 miles an hour.
It's just a great run. Clint Thompson slows to a 5.89, just really didn't have much go right on that. When the guy in the other lane's running his career best. One of the few Ford bodies in this class, of course, the Tasca family has been hooked up with John Force for a while. Got the Auto Club on the front of that, the quick lube on the side. Just a marvelous run. One of the really very much improved racers that we've seen in this class in the last 2 years.
All right, we're going to step aside for a quick break, but don't worry, you won't miss a thing here at the Lucas Oil Sportsman Series.
The NHRA Lucas Oil Sportsman Series is brought to you by Lucas Oil. Keep that engine alive.
And back here at O'Reilly Raceway Park as we are in second round action. Top Alcohol Funny Car, and if you were with us during the first segment, you heard Bob Fry mention Jay Payne. He's going to be in the left lane against Brian Houck.
It's the #1 qualifier, Jay Payne. The winner here goes against Frank Manzo in the second round. Jay basically runs all the race with that Valvoline car. By the way, one of the big announcements this weekend was that Valvoline is returning for all of their sportsman races for next year, and that's good news for Jay Payne, Bob Newberry, a lot of our good friends in the sportsman ranks. Brian Houck, though, the sleeper here in the field. The kid comes in from Oregon. They ran a points race in Acton, Montana last week and then had to drive all the way back here. And I understand they may be going to the Fallon, Nevada Division 7 race next week. I mean, kind of makes you glad you're a frequent flyer. It's a very good race car. But Jay Payne, there aren't a lot of guys in this class, Marty, that can say they've been quicker and faster than Frank Manzo, but Jay Payne can.
Now, I don't want to be the truck driver going
No.
Fallon.
Well, it's funny. I talked to the guys that came in and drove it. Brian flew in a day after they did and everything, and they just said, no, it's only about 1,800 miles. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't believe I've used only an 1,800 miles in the same sentence in my life.
Right. That's even a long distance for folks in Texas.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting run right here because Jay has the better car. He's been the #1 qualifier. He's run some booming big speeds. He's been over 260, but Brian just doesn't seem to make too many mistakes with his race car this season.
That's going to cost you a lot, especially when Jay runs a 5:59 elapsed time at 259 miles an hour.
That mistake being he had a reaction time to begin with a 2. And, you know, drivers aren't that late. They normally get distracted or something like that. And it's going to be interesting because Jay's going to go in against his good, close personal friend, Frank Manzo. Hard to believe you can run 5:59 with an Alki car. You're not even close to getting lane choice. But Brian goes 5:61. I mean, that's a pretty good run. 255 the speed, but he's beaten by a car length or so at the top end. And let's see, that's about the same place that we saw Frank make that little wiggle, but other than that, pretty flawless.
All right, let's check in with Dave Reef.
You mentioned the Tasca name synonymous with John Force Racing. Well, gee, I wonder who your hero is when you go 5:61.
Woo, it was awesome. You know, Force came by the other day. He was polishing the name Force on the front of the car, but that was for my guys. Last night, we were out there till 2:30 in the morning, rebuilding it. We wounded it in first round. We had the generator go down. We had fans holding flashlights. But for AAA of Southern New England, quick lane, the quick lane guys were out there this weekend. Unbelievable. Are we going to the semis again? Woo!
You just got the Northeast accent. Otherwise, it's Force.
That's the New England accent, you know, hey.
I want to go back to this for a second. Take a look at the windscreen on Jay Payne's car. This is not, I don't think, what the design was supposed to do. Watch as it compresses.
It's going to flex down there, and
now, we saw this years ago with the Pro cars, and they put in some extra support to keep that from happening, to keep the aerodynamic. Look at it. It's almost flat there. I'm wondering if he's even aware of it.
well, I'm looking at it, and I'm not 100% sure if that's not just a glare in there. I mean, I don't know enough about those windshields there.
Well, we'll keep an eye on it. Maybe you might be right, but it looked like it was flexing quite a bit.
You really hurt him in the performance department.
Yeah, for sure. Well, enough that he may not have lane choice because of it. Steve Harker and Steve Gasparelli, I guarantee you Steve's going to win.
Interesting. The Gasparelli family coming out here number 3 in the Lucas Oil points last year. And it's very interesting because for everything they've done here in the sport of drag racing, his dad was just one of the great racers in this class. They've never made it to the championship round here at the Go, and it's very interesting. So you're going to take a look at that Gasparelli family. And Steve Harker right now, they put a new supercharger on a couple of weeks ago. Got this great new body, the Monte Carlo. It's running well. He's driving as well as I've seen him since he came over here. And like I said earlier, coming off that win at the Lucas Oil Racing Bowling Green, he's hot.
staying hot. 5.63 the elapsed time, 2:56. And he cut an 0.69 light to Gasparelli's 0.82.
5.69 for Steve at 2.57, but this was just a wire-to-wire job for Steve Harker. 5.63 is going to put him right there with the big guys in this class, and he's gone into the semifinals. Interesting matchups we'll talk about in a moment.
Let's check in with Dave Reef.
Down with Jay Payne, 5:59. We've got all of those numbers out of the way, but I direct your attention out to our Phillips monitor and something that the guys in the booth picked up, and we're curious if you see. Watch the windshield as your Valvoline machine goes down the racetrack. You recognize any of the indentation that you're about ready to see?
Well, not yet.
There you can start to see it.
Yeah, that's okay. That's why it runs a good mile an hour. The windshield lays back.
5:59 though, you don't see that. You mentioned that you're going to need to pick it up.
Yeah, that's not good enough to race Manzo, but I need to go to that Tascus John Force School interviews, huh? Was that guy wound up?
Yes, he was. All right, let's take a look at our semifinal matchups here in Alcohol Funny Car, because it will be Frank Manzo with the lane choice.
Yeah, it's intriguing. Two of the heavyweights in the class right there going at it. And then over on the flip side, two guys that are like living in a dream world right now. A guy from Rhode Island, a guy from Australia that have never been to the money round here at the Go.
All right, we've got to take a commercial break. When we come back, you can see top alcohol dragsters already backing up after the burnouts. You won't miss a thing. Back here at the Lucas Oil Sportsman Series at O'Reilly Raceway Park in Indianapolis, Indiana. As we're here at the Big Go, getting ready for top alcohol dragster second round. Let's take a look at our ladder.
Yeah, going to be interesting matchups there. It's like two injected cars from the top, Half Thacker and Kondo. Both those supercharged cars, as they'll be getting the matchup. And we got some really good matchups also coming out of the other side of the ladder. You're going to take a look at this guy, Bill Reichert, the new look Rizlone team against Dino Dave, and then Callaway and Garrett Bateman in a matchup of very hot race cars right now.
And you're looking at Dino Dave Heisman right there, as he'll be over in the right lane. Bill Reichert will be over in the left lane. Of course, Reichert, if you've been following the series, loves the mile an hour. He can get it on.
That's a tough break for Dino there as he struck the tires. And wow, Reichert runs low ET, and look at that speed.
278.35 miles an hour. We told you he liked the pedal. Quickest run of the season in top alcohol dragster. Let's check in with Dave Reef.
Down with Steve Harker, plenty happy to be at the semifinals at the Mac Tools U.S. Nationals, but what does this race mean to a guy from Australia? Same as it does to us?
It does, yeah. The biggest race of the year. It's a fantastic event. NHRA does a great job with Powerade to get the job done. It's a thrill to be here, and going rounds on race day, that's what it's all about.
You going to be able to tune this race car up?
Yeah, we'll try. What did it run then?
69.
69, yeah. We'll get after it and see if we can get it down in the flat 60s, which is what we'll need, you know.
Guy from Rhode Island, guy from Australia. I love how you set that up, Bob.
Now, Bill Reichert just crushed him. About the only thing that he didn't do good was get off the starting line first. The new look Rizlone, last time we saw those colors here at Indy was the Chi-Town Hustler. Dino Dave just smoked the tires right off the line. Bill Reichert just ran almost 230 miles an hour at half track. That's a record in the alcohol class of the A fuel cars. He also made that best run on the new percentage rules, as you mentioned, Marty. And we had seen a 5:20 earlier this weekend by Dwayne Shields. Bill Reichert right there. I watched him in his last round of qualifying, and I said that he's going to run low ET and top speed. He had a little bit of a hesitation off the starting line, but he ran 276, and right there, another booming speed. I mean, right now, he is the best car in the class.
Well, we're going to see now coming to the line, Dwayne Shields over in the right lane. Let's light him up. That's Randy Meyer in the left lane. While we've got a moment while they're backing the cars up, we'll tell you about our next stop on the Lucas Oil Sportsman Series. It'll come your way from Reading, Pennsylvania. You'll see it on ESPN2 and ESPN2 HD Sunday, September 24th. Mark the calendar. Here's the time, 1 o'clock Eastern time. We'll see you then.
Your number one qualifier, Dwayne Shields, against Randy Meyer, who has owned the car that won the Lucas Oil Championship a few years ago. Then there's two supercharged cars. I talked to Dwayne and his guys last night, and Dana Hopewell and everybody, and they said the car's running very well. Randy Meyer's machine right here. Earlier in the weekend, he told me he's as confident about this team as he has been. He said the car's running well. We've really solved our problems from half track on. Now, you're not going to see those 278 speeds right here, but it's a very good team car right here. And it was really interesting because Randy certainly seemed very content with himself and said, I've got, for the first time, the confidence that I got a race car that can go the distance. Dwayne's guys, though, just really tickled to death. They set that number one ET with a 520. They just saw what Bill Reichert did right in front of them.
great drag race, and Randy Meyer gets the win light in a hole shot. 5.36 seconds to a quicker but losing 5:34. Margin of victory, 8 1/1000ths of a second. There's the margin. Let's check in with Dave Reef.
Bill Rucker, did that feel about like the best run of the weekend?
That felt pretty good. It felt smooth and strong, so I think it probably was pretty good.
518. 278.
278, 518. All right, that's the Rizlone car is working good.
And this thing able to, it looks like it just repeat at will.
Oh man, that 518, that's unbelievable. That's a great run. I'm really happy.
We'll be watching to see what you run now coming up in the semifinals. He's on his way.
That was a great term, Dave, because that's what Bill told me. He said, we got this car on repeatability. He said, it's just not making any bad runs. He said, made a run early in the weekend, like heard a spark plug, and that was about it. Great drag race right there, and Randy Meyer was a couple of hundredths better out of the starting gate. Even though he had to drive it around there in that lane, you saw Wayne's car was straight down the racetrack, but gave back about a tenth from his best performance. Watch it move right there. I'm not too sure that he actually didn't get off the throttle there for a moment.
Yeah, it did look like he kind of saw his head sort of whip around a little bit, gave it a little pop. There it is, the margin of victory, as you see it there at the finish line. And while we get ready for Lee Calloway and Garrett Bateman, let's check in again with Dave Reef at the far end.
Now, Randy, we've been just talking about how this season's been a little bit of a struggle for you, so anytime you can grab a whole shot and win over the #1 qualifier at a race like this.
We'll take it any way we can get, but you're right, we've struggled. My guys have hung in there. We've hung in there. We've tested so much this year. This summer, it's been a rough road, but we turned it around last week and get paying big dividends now for hanging in there. And my regular guys couldn't make it, so I got some fill-in guys, Scott and Mike and my wife. They're doing a great job, and I need to thank Aeromotive and Tow Racks and Miller Industries, all my guys for hanging in there. Goodyear gave me a good set of tires to get by this first round, so we're marching on.
Talking about turning around last week, they go to the Division 5 race down there in Topeka and make it into the championship round, and that's when he really felt that he got all the bugs out of this race car. Talk about testing. Garrett Bateman and the guys went down to Texas and tested the motor plugs, and the track temperature was 140 degrees. They said, who goes down there? And I said, just a masochist, that's all. That, you know. So, but they said we learned something. Interesting here is Lee Calloway, this Tom Conway getting set to go, owns this race car. It's the car that Steve Torrance took to the Lucas Oil Championship last year. And Garrett Bateman in that Big O Tires machine, along with Bill Windham and Greg Mitchell, they got a marvelous car here. Devin Rubich doing the crew chiefing here. They're very confident, and rightfully so.
Take the win, Garrett Bateman. 5.33 seconds, 263 miles an hour. Can you tell she's a little excited?
Well, let me tell you, Tom Conway is writing the notes down. He lives life on a 5 on a scale of 1 to 10. Never gets too amped up, never gets too depressed. His car ran at 534, 270 miles an hour right there, but Garrett Bateman was a couple of hundreds better off the starting line. Calloway picked him up early, but then watch this. He goes sailing on down the track, and Bateman with that Big O car, a little bit straighter on the racetrack down there, and very solid performance right there. So you got Bateman's going to go against Reichert. So that team, you know, they're jumping up and down, all the jubilation might be short-lived when they realize they got a 5-teen, 280-mile-an-hour car in the next round. But I talked to Garrett and the guys about 11:30 last night over in the pits, and he said, Bob, I'm telling you, we are so confident the way the race car is. They've taken a nice young kid, given him a chance to be a crew chief on this race car, and everything's working out well.
So that brings us to our final pair here in second round competition of Alcohol Dragster. That's Noah Kondo in the left lane and Marty Thacker over in the right lane.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. 4 supercharged cars started out in the field, and ironically, if you look at the percentages, we're going to have one up in the semifinals. That's the way it ought to go. The Imaging Center on the side of that race car, sponsoring them and looking for some extra financial help. And I got to tell you, this has been the most impressive car, I think, this weekend.
More on this matchup, but first to the far end.
Now, as Garrett Bateman works at all the safety equipment, I think this man rounded the corner and wasn't exactly sure if he had won or not, but, you know, we just saw pretty hyper Bob Tasca. Man. Well, this may be his top Alcohol Dragster counterpart. Did you know you won?
No, I had no idea. I never saw him, but I didn't know. So
533, going to need to step it up, going up against that teen car, but the bottom line is you're onto the semi.
Absolutely. You know, this one goes out to Mike Hensminger and his family. Our hearts go out to him. He lost his family just recently, and I want to thank Big O Tires, Mach 1, CSK Pro Shops. I mean, American Racing, they're the ones that are making this happen for us. Bill Windham and Greg Mitchell. Thank you. Thank you.
Mike Ensminger, the head guy at Mach 1 Air Services, lost both his parents in the span of 13 days earlier on this month. That was the reference there. Now here we go. Marty Thacker, who has always had great rides here at this racetrack, a Torco supercharged car, and Noah Kondo, a car that basically nobody heard of coming into this race, but it's really a good car.
Thacker goes red, and Ned goes airborne. and Kondo is into the semifinals.
Let me tell you, Noah got over near that center line right there, and of course, if you red light and the other guy goes over that center line, the guy that fouled out would get back. Let's see how close he was to that line. Marty Thacker, when I told you about some great rides, he did a monster wheel stand here at Indy a couple of years ago in qualifying. Carries that front end. Look at that. Now watch the blue car going over near the center line. Then Marty finally puts it back down, smokes the tires like a jetliner on the runway. Fun to watch, but unfortunately he was fouled out on the line. Look at this thing. Right off the starting line. Carries those front wheels right in the air. They like to launch like that, but once you start to get them a little higher and a little higher, the driver loses sight of the horizon down there. And right about now, you got to figure, I got to bring this thing back down. Don't get off the pedal all the way because you're going to slam that thing back down. And that's just a thing of beauty.
And there's touchdown.
Wow.
Made a safe landing.
5:43 for Noah, by the way. Good speed, too, for the supercharged car, 265. And, you know, like I always say, unless you're winning it, when they say, let's see that from another angle, it's not usually a good sign.
There is the view
good exposure for his sponsors, though, and the Torco guys. Great matchups in the semis, Marty.
Yep, Randy will have the lane choice over Noah Kondo. Noah can shave off a little bit of that time if he can just keep the car straight. Over on the other side, here's the big number. That 518 by Bill Reichert looms over everyone. Let's go to the far end.
Well, Marty Thacker, we want to talk to you about a wild ride. Obviously, you didn't know you had tripped the red light, but what is it like to drive a car with only two wheels on the ground, and those being the back ones?
Yeah, actually, I was pretty excited about it because since we switched cars this year, we hadn't been able to get it to do that, and a lot of folks know our old car did it a lot. We went fast that way a few times, and it's a race like no other, but I didn't know I went red. So.
Can you even see the horizon at that point?
I still could, and when you can't anymore, it's time to abort. But I was watching it, and it came down, but I think it hurt something in the process. So.
Yeah, best of luck next time, Noah. Good round for you. On to the semifinals, your second national event round win. Did you know he had went red? And, of course, you had your hands full pressing the center line.
Yeah, no, I did not know he went red. I went kind of late, I thought. Kind of new, and I'm trying the tree, practicing more and trying to get better, and just glad to get it. I know that something happened at the end because I went by him right at the end, I think. So.
It could have been really interesting because if you cross the center line, you're not going on to the semifinals, but you are.
If I would have lifted, so good deal. Thanks.
All right, we've got to take a break, but when we come back, as we show you one more look at this one going airborne, stay with us. The semifinals and finals still to come here at the Lucas Oil Sportsman Drag Racing Series. This telecast is available on ESPN2 HD, presented by Hitachi. And welcome back to O'Reilly Raceway Park in Indianapolis. We're at the Lucas Oil Sportsman Series at the Mac Tools U.S. Nationals, and our aerials courtesy of the O'Reilly Auto Parts Copter Cam. And boy, have they provided some great views of this spectacular facility. That's the 5/8 oval over to the left there as we get ready now for semifinals. This is going to be a dandy. You've got Frank Manzo right there in the left lane up against Jay Payne.
There's almost nothing I can say. I mean, it's the two best drivers here, the two most powerful cars in this class over the last couple of years. I mean, as I said earlier, they just basically dominated. Jay was number one this year. He was number one last year. He was number one in 03. He was number one in 2002. I mean, Frankie goes out there, and in the other years, he was holding the big performance advantages. So these are good, close personal friends. But let me tell you, this is a big race. I certainly think from a points perspective, a little bit stronger for Frank because he's going to start to run out of national events pretty soon. I'm sure we'll see him in that show we promoted a while ago out there at Maple Grove, and they'll pretty much run the gamut for him. But I talked to them earlier. He said the car is running well, and even for Frank, he hasn't any complaints. Not a lot of tire shake and things of that nature. Jay knows he's going to have to be on his game on the starting line. The biggest difference right here between the two, maybe who reacts better at the green.
We'll find that out shortly as you can see the numbers, the 559 for Jay Payne versus the 553 for Frank Manzo in that last round. Now there is wife Shelley for Jay, bringing him into the lights. G2 drives in the Pro Mod ranks.
Both guys are good friends, both wives are good friends, but this is a battle and everything. It's going to be very intriguing. I told you, I think the two best performing cars and two drivers that absolutely have to be in the, in the top, well, two. Once these guys do it in stage, you'll hear the RPMs. They just come up with a real high pitch. And both these guys leave the line probably about as strong as anybody in the class.
is Manzo, 5.54 seconds at 2:59. Jay runs 5.63. They're as far as Lucas, the man who sponsors the Lucas Oil Series, with cheering his car on.
Just about a flawless performance, that's all I can say. Jay had two better off the starting line, but by the time they were 60 feet in here, mathematically, Frank had made that up. Look at the difference, almost picture-perfect straight for the Lucas Oil car. Jay made that hard move off the starting line. That'll just take you right out of the program. When the guy in the other lane's running mid-50s, you cannot make a mistake. Jay knows it, and I'm sure that he'll just say he got beat by the better car. Here's Jay, and you're going to see it even before he hits second gear. Tire chatters, car moves over toward the center line. He's got to muscle it back into his lane, but you're losing precious time, only hundredths of a second, but you cannot afford to do that against Frank Manzo. Other drivers, you can do that, save it, and get away with it.
So that'll bring us to our second semifinal in Alcohol Funny Car. Closest to you in the left lane, Bob Tasca, and then Steve Harker over in the right lane. More on this matchup, but first, let's go to the far end. Check in again with Dave Reef.
Hey, Manzo, a big final to get to the final, but I had to feel that way at least.
Yes, Jay is the toughest car out there, bar none. I was really nervous about it. No, I mean, I have a lot of respect for Jay. And we just went up there and we tried to run another 53 or 52. I thought Jay would run 55. He's been on his game driving this weekend, and I've been a little iffy, but we got the Lucas Super Winch, Lucas Cycles, Jags. How about them Hoosier tires?
Another final in Indy.
Yeah, but we got to get the job done.
It'll be his 10th here, and in the other 9, he's gotten the job done 7 times. Now, Steve Harker and the Monte Carlo from Australia against Bob Tasca and the Ford car. Talked to Randy Anderson earlier in the day. He really likes the way this kid handles the race car. Said they got a good enough machine with that quick lane Ford car that they can run with anybody in the class. We saw it earlier in the season. Tasca went into Englishtown, made it to the final round, ran top speed of the meet. That means he's making a lot of power and using it. And Steve Harker with his team getting set to go, just trying to put together back-to-back good wins at the points races and the national event. But as you heard Steve say after that last run, he knows he's going to have to step up here. He's got to pick up about 4 or 5 hundredths to run with Bob Tasca.
Light goes to Tasca, 5.64 to the quicker, but losing 5.63. It was Tasca first off the line in an 0.68 light to the 0.97 of Harker.
I'm telling you, the kid is doing a very good job. A 68 light, I believe he'll have to tweak that a little bit going into that final round, but we're going to have a replay of the Englishtown final round where Frank Manzo took on Bob Tasca. And Bob's got a very good race car right now. We're going to watch this thing. Comes out of the gate. I mean, just a little wiggle, not much tire shake. Goes 564, 255 miles an hour. The only Ford body competing right now at this level in this class, and he's just been really pumped up. It's 100th of a second at the quarter-mile mark, the margin of victory right there.
Take a look at the margin of victory at the stride. And take a look at the final matchup, and you'll see that it is Manzo with the lane choice by a full 1/10 of a second. Let's check in with Dave Reef.
Like a typical drag racer, he says, what did it run? 5.64, but the important thing is here at the finals at Indy.
We're going to the finals in Indy, and for the sponsors, AAA, Quick Lane, PPG, this is awesome. Everyone back at the dealerships, we're excited. We might have to go to Force's camp to find about 100 horsepower to beat Manzo, but he's got to come. He's going to have to be up for the fight, because we will. We're going to the final. Woo! Woo!
Love the enthusiasm, don't you?
Yeah, you know, it'll settle in when he goes in. Who are we running? Yeah. Frank?
Randy Meyer in the left lane. Noah Kondo over in the right lane.
Noah told me he absolutely believes in his heart that he can win this. See those tires on there? Put the bead locks on them earlier in this week. They had never run them before. Put a different size tire, put the bead locks on. He said it's made a complete difference in the driving of this race car and the way that he can approach it on the starting line. He said this thing's been a dream to drive all day long. Randy told me everything is absolutely perfect mechanically. I echo what I said earlier in the show when Randy Meyer said this is as good mentally as he's approached the race because he knows that his car can run with anybody.
The number 9 qualifier versus the number 12 qualifier. That's right, both from the bottom half of the field. Here we go in our first semifinal in Alcohol Dragster.
Interesting. You heard Kondo start to get the RPMs up. We've seen this happen with the blown cars and the injected cars a couple of times this year.
win light goes to Meyer with a 5:30 elapsed time, and neither guy was really stellar on the tree.
Well, that's because of what was going on the line. You saw them both in the pre-stage beam. You heard Noah Conda's RPMs come up. That's the difference in driving approach and these. The fuel car starts from an idle. When your reaction time starting with a 1, it's nothing to be, really excited about. But actually, they were both just about 100ths of a second off the starting line. 5:30, 2:61. That's a very good 8th mile run for Meyer. He ran 2:23 at the 8th mile. That might be his best.
Still a great weekend, though, for Noah Conda, who's talking things over after a pretty close race with Randy Meyer. Randy, come on over. Congratulations, you're going to another final. I'm not going to stage. You're not going to stage. Who's going to stage?
I'll tell you what, it's been a struggle to get this point, and like I said, I can't thank enough of my guys and the sponsors and stuff for hanging in there with us, and it's been a challenge, and my guys have rose to the occasion and doing a good job driving. I think the cars come around, and we got Bill in the final probably. We'll see once here, but either way, it's a good cusp. We're just glad to be there, and I need to thank Korax and Miller and Aeromotive and stuff, the guys for hanging in there, and said the Goodyear's just getting better all the time.
Bold prediction. Let's see if he's right.
Yeah, but don't tell Garrett Bateman right now what he just said.
Yeah, say that piece of videotape.
Well, watch right here with me, Randy, and we'll see who you're going to race.
I asked Garrett, I said, how do you beat a 280-mile-an-hour car? He said, run 280.
Oh, well, he can't do it. 5:25 the elapsed time for Bill Reichert at 2:75. Garrett goes 5:37 at only 2:56.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. He ran 2:26 at the 8th mile, did Bill Reichert on that run. And the guy that right now with that Rizlone team out of Bars Lake made a very good, solid effort. 0.66 is running well. You saw them drop a cylinder over there on the Big O tires, but Javed Maruvich has done a very good job with that Big O tires machine. Reichert right now, it's going to be awfully tough to stop him. He's as good right now in this class, Marty, as Frank Manzo is in the funny car class.
Tell you what, when you're making that kind of mile an hour, you get lane choice, especially when you have 5 100ths over the competition. That's exactly what Bill Reichert will have in the final in Alcohol Dragster here at the Lucas Oil Sportsman Drag Racing Series at the Big Go. Getting ready to hand out the hardware at the Mac Tools U.S. Nationals in our sportsman categories. And as we get ready for all that action, you look down from the O'Reilly Auto Parts top the cam. Time now for our Lucas Oil Sportsman Spotlight. We're going to focus on the Comp Eliminator Final.
This will be an interesting matchup. Somebody's going to double up here. Lee Zane in the L Altered. That's the Professor Dave Rings car. They won at Memphis at our last race on tour. Glenn Treadwell over in the far lane won this race last year. So Glenn Treadwell and Lee Zane. That is a really trick little piece right there. It's a 6-cylinder Chevy engine from a Trailblazer. It's got like, a million valves and stuff like this. It is a one-of-a-kind race car. And Lee Zane with a 176 cubic inch 4-cylinder engine, that Bantam Roadster. Lee Zane is dynamite. He's won this race before the stock. Treadwell's won it a couple of times in comp. Should be a great run. Both drivers, oh man, 0-14 and 0-15 out of the gate. Who's got the better race car at the quarter-mile mark? What a great drag race. The winner is going to be Glenn Treadwell. Becomes only the 3rd driver in the history of this race to go back-to-back in comp. It was a great win. Larry Pritchett did it, and Don Carlson did it 30 years ago.
And you want to take a look at the margin of victory, 7/1000ths of a second at the stripe. That's close.
Poor Lee Zane, he had an 0-15 light in the final of comp and got left on. Glenn Treadwell and his wife, I did a feature on him on my website at dragracecentral.com earlier this year. Just loves going out drag racing, and that was just a marvelous comp eliminator final round. With all the big monster motors they had here, the big 6-second cars and turbos and everything, 10 cylinders is all we had in the final round.
Time now for our Alcohol Funny Car Final, and it's Bob Tasca up against Frank Manzo.
Yeah, Frank has already won this thing 7 times. The kid here ran Frank in the finals at Englishtown and saw a whole lot of that Lucas car. I talked to the team for Bob Tasca just before they came into the lanes. I said, what are you guys going to try to do to run with Frank? How can you go in the 50s? He said, we're going to try it. And then they went, no, we're going to go out and try to run a low 60 right here. If Frank steps up, runs a 50-something and beats us, and God bless him. He said, we just don't want to be able to give it away to him. John Forrest, who's been good friends with the Tascas. Bob Tasca Sr. came here to Indy the first time in 1962 with a driver named Bill Lawton, who then drove every Ford car until the Tascas came out with this one. You get this far, you just don't want to give it away. Make Frank earn it. He does most of the time.
Red light. And Ace Manzo takes his 8th win here at Indy, which is going to tie him on the all-time list with guess who? Big Daddy Don Garland.
That's a pretty nice list to be on there. Steve Lowe, we always mention Steve, a good friend. He came down here, he went through the bad weather, and he just loves it. And of course, then they go to Frank's home track. And Bob Tasca, then they obviously had some engine problems with a 133 light. Maybe the car was getting pulled through the lights on the starting line because it really didn't make a full revolution of the tires before it started smoking. And just as I finished saying, you don't want to give it up to him, but they'd have been hard-pressed to beat a 556. But let me tell you, Bob Tasca did a great job here. Been to 2 final rounds plus a divisional final already this season. And that Ford car there and all the great folks involved with it had a great time talking to Mr. Tasca back in the staging lanes. And, you know, he said when Bill Lawton used to run against us, he had a Chevy. I told him, you'll never win in a Chevy. He said, can I drive your Ford? And he did. And there have been a lot of great running Fords out of Tasca for a long while.
All right, let's go check in with Dave at the far end.
Ace, for the 8th time here at Indy, you will raise a Mac Tools U.S. Nationals trophy. And I don't know if you realize this, but it puts you on a pretty legendary list. You have now tied the big one, Big Daddy Don Garland.
Well, it's unbelievable. All I can say is, number one, thank the good Lord. I mean, the car didn't run very good in the final. It shattered a little bit. We got the win. That's all that counted. Tasca red light kept me a little upset, you know, threw me off a little bit, but we got the win. Car ran flawless eliminations.
You won 8 of these things. What does that mean?
Got to win 9. And I want to thank Lucas, my crew, my wife, Super Winch, Hoosier Tires, and you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we've got to take commercial break as he holds the trophy high. We'll get ready for the Alcohol Dragster Final and all the other class finals here at the Big Go. Back here at the Lucas Oil Sportsman Series, the final now in Alcohol Dragster. It'll have Bill Reichert in the left lane, Randy Meyer in the right lane.
First of all, on behalf of all the other alcohol funny car drivers, I want to go beat up Frank Manzo. He said, oh, my car didn't run good around the 56. He's in the 50s all day long. Good heavens. Never happy. Maybe that's why he is the man. Randy Meyer getting set to go against Bill Reichert. The consensus around the pit area is that Randy Meyer needs to be first off the gate right here because he's got a tremendous running car in the other lane. Been a long while since I've seen an alcohol car, an injected car like this, running like Bill Reichert's. He's got a great comfort zone. He got away with one on the line early in the round. He's got the Rizlone folks helping him out. He's got the 1-year picture of his granddaughter Grace on the side and a bad hot rod. And he's got everything except an Indy win.
Guess what? Reichert's got the Indy win now. Randy gave him a great run for it. 5:27 for Randy to the 5:24 elapsed time for Bill Reichert.
Gotta tell you, at half track, Randy Meyer was out in front. And then that big top end speed, 271. Now watch this. At half track, you can throw a blanket over the two of them. Then at the stripe, it's 0.03 of a second for Bill Reichert. Randy Meyer with a marvelous effort. He goes 5:27, 267. But if you want to find out how to run an A fuel car, see this body panels flexing on that thing? Watch this. On Bill Reichert's car, they really start flexing out the bottom. Dropped his cylinder at the end, so it might not have been a perfect run, but it was a good winning run here at Indy.
And as a 1-year-old, you got to figure that your granddaughter, Gracie, is starting to cut a little bit of teeth as Randy Meyer comes over and offers a big congratulatory hug. Just cutting teeth, I imagine your granddaughter is. How's that work out for a chew toy?
that will probably help. That'll probably help. That'll help me anyways. That's really, the U.S. Nationals is the big one, and we've wanted to win this for so long. I can't believe it, and it just seems like finally everything went right for us. The Rizlone car come around. We had a lot of work to do on it, but Rizlone is our new sponsor from Bars Leaks, and it's just cool.
You can't understate the value of a Mac Tools U.S. Nationals win. We will be back to O'Reilly Raceway Park and wrap up today's Lucas Oil Sportsman coverage in just a moment.
The NHRA Lucas Oil Sportsman Series is brought to you by Lucas Oil. Keep that engine alive.
And back here at O'Reilly Raceway Park, time for our other class finals, and it's the Super Gas class coming to the line first.
Regis LePage with the truck on the left lane. There's the Motorhome and RV Center out of Maine, and Iggy Boychesko. Aren't a lot of people on the planet that can say, hi, I'm Iggy Boychesko. He's a great kid. I've known him for a long while. He's right outside of Philadelphia, runs at Maple Grove and Atco Raceway. He's won this race before, won it in 1994. Been a really hot driver, but has not won a national event in 8 years.
Iggy's a kid at 55?
Compared to me, he is.
Here we go.
Two pretty good runners. Regis already with a big win in Englishtown earlier this season, and he Iggy Boychesko going to try to see if he can get his first Indy win in over a decade. Iggy's driving the Corvette. Here comes Regis. That Chevy truck runs big speed to the top end. Iggy Boychesko, 994 win. He is going to be so pumped up. His first big Indy win in 12 years.
Time now for our stock final.
Yep, it's Dave Edwards, one national event win to his credit, and Dan Fletcher, who's won everything in the sport of drag racing in the Lucas Oil Series except Indianapolis. He's been to the finals twice, been beaten by his friend Lee Zane twice. The Summit Racing Valvoline team car finished 4th in the points last year. He's won the Lucas Oil Championship. He's won everything he can except this one. Dave Edwards right there with him off the starting line. The B-fuel injected automatic. Different model Chevrolet Camaro's top end to win. Dan Fletcher, and he runs 10.69 on the 1069. And now Fletcher's done it all. Jimmy Lewis right there, a former Lucas Oil World Champion Super Gas against Heather Robalato, her first national event final round. And it's the heads-up 890 Super Comp class. Heather, the better of the two off the line. Now watch Jimmy. He runs the big speed. He's on a lot of racetrack at the top end. And how about Heather Robalato? Gets the winner. First national event win ever right here at the Big O. And the family's been doing this for a long while. Nobody's done it better than Heather. Super Stock Final getting set to go. Scott Stillings, the homeboy from Indianapolis, has not been a good weekend for the hometown crowd. Mark Falk right down the road in Tacoma, Washington. Out of the starting gate, the handicap start, and it was a big one. Stillings got to eat up the ground. He's down by 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and never got him. And Mark Falk from Tacoma, Washington gets the national win here at the Big Go.
And that's going to do it for us. For Bob Fry, Dave Reef, and our entire ESPN2 crew, I'm Marty Reed. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Lucas Oil Sportsman Series. There's our next stop, Sunday, September 24th at 1 Eastern. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. So long, everybody.